the journey has been amazing. It's something that I would never ever do again, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Welcome to Road Culture Rules. My name is Jill, and today I want to continue this conversation that I started a few days ago in the video where we talked a little bit about victim, and I think there was some misunderstanding in terms of what I was communicating, but it's given me great food for thought. So I want to continue that conversation. I want to morph it into, is this kind of journey or any kind of journey good for those of you who have had bad things happen? We're going to meet Matt in our break, who is a veteran who took a journey of his own, and why there's a much bigger message to all of this that I really wanted to share. So we're going to take a deep breath, hold for 4, exhale, and we're going to see you on the other side.
Yeah, my name's Matt Littrell. I'm riding horseback from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina to Camp Pendleton, California.
And why are you doing it?
We're doing this to raise money for the Semper Fi Fund, and also to show these veterans out there that they're not alone, that they haven't been forgotten. We're losing, last reported, 22 a day to suicide.
And I'm assuming you're a veteran?
I am. I did 2 tours to Iraq, Marine Corps Infantry, and I was almost one of those 22. And spent a night looking at a pistol on the table in front of me, and wound up not doing it, obviously.
What made you change your mind?
I wasn't going to leave my brothers alone. I wasn't going to leave them behind. After everything we went through, I wasn't going to leave them alone.
So that was Matt. He is a veteran who came back, became extremely suicidal. It flashed into his head that he wanted to go on a horse ride from coast to coast, and he just did it. And if there's anything that's a journey, it's what he did, the long trail home. And I think it was 2014. I haven't actually watched the whole video. Even as I'm recording this, I haven't watched it again. And it's also going to be blocked in some country because there's copyright music in it. But he came into this little town. I got a phone call. I ran down, found them in town. In 30 minutes, we had a really intense conversation. We recorded the video material. I came home, I edited it, and that was my last interaction with him. But within that extremely short time frame, we had a really powerful connection and conversation. And I wanted to use his story as an example of what I was talking about, what a victim is not, versus I think some of what got misunderstood about my conversation before. And the reason I wanted to say that is because this is really powerful, and I believe so much in the fact that we need to do our own personal healing. And that's what this journey was about for me, and it's what this journey is about for a lot of people. So I don't want to miss that message that, like Tristan and member Legends of the Fall, he had to go away on his own journey, kind of settle up what was going within him down. Then he could come home and be the man he wanted to be. So the journey to travel, a nomad life, either full-time or temporary, is a very powerful way to heal whatever's going on within you. And a little bit later, I'm going to talk about a few points about why it can be good for you and things to be to watch out for so that it doesn't work against you. But, you know, meeting Matt, he's just the epitome of what I'm talking about this journey can be. It's a time that's just yours. It's a time to really go into whatever the problem or the situation or whatever caused you, whatever you experienced, that you need to heal within you. And I think that's the critical piece that I wanted to talk about. Everybody has bad things happen. We all have bad things happen. It's not my place or anybody else's to judge what that feels like or what that experience is for the other person. But in reading your comments, I tried to understand what is that kind of line between what I was talking about versus what I feel really strongly about. And I think for me, the best way I could explain it is there's a line in that, do I want you to feel sorry for me because of what happened in my past or present? And for myself, the answer is always no. I never want pity. I never want to build my future on somebody's pity for me or my situation. And I think, as you know, my work history, I could probably count on one hand the number of people that didn't want pity, right? They wanted to get something because they were so depleted within themselves. There is a place for that in a small, short, temporary way, but in the bigger picture, it's really our work here in this world is to heal the broken places within ourselves. That's not something somebody can do for us. And this kind of experience, you know, walking away from society, taking a time out, that's so powerful to heal what feels like it's broken within us. Maybe forever, and it may be temporary. But the second piece to that is, no, I never want you to feel sorry for me. And so I asked myself, well, what is it that I really want? And what I have always wanted is I want dignity, and I don't want charity because of pity, but there's always a time for charity with grace. And I think that's the big difference that I wanted to clarify here, that there's nothing more powerful than when you're in a weak, vulnerable place and somebody reaches their hand out to you and takes it and lifts you up from whatever that terrible, vulnerable place is. But that's very different than living in a terrible, vulnerable place and constantly grabbing at other people's hands to do the work for you, instead of figuring out how to put those feet underneath yourself so that you can stand up when you get that hand that reaches towards you. And to me, that's the real difference. And I don't think it serves people to enable them within their victim consciousness. You know, I could see that with Matt. I can see that with, you know, a few other people that don't feel sorry for me is their story, but I just need some time, space, and support to get my feet back underneath me, because this is the second half of that. And that's really where I want to go in terms of these videos and this journey, is that we are responsible for healing ourselves and making ourselves whole, because it's only then that we really have something to contribute out into this world. And so that's part of being older. Hopefully, you know, in your 40s and 50s, you really are putting your pieces back together so that in this later half, or this third or fourth act, however we want to look at it, we have something powerful to contribute because we've experienced the bad things. We've healed and recovered from the bad things, and now we have a way to give back to those who might be still in the struggle place. But we can do it from a place of grace in which we're not judging or condemning, but also giving the gift of dignity, saying that I am not going to try to take your suffering away from you, but rather give you the space to do what you need to do so that you can find your way to heal. Because if I've learned anything about working with others and within myself, is that nobody can do it for you. And we've created a culture that's constantly trying to save victims from themselves. And the reality is, it is our work, that is why we are here, is to heal ourselves, to become mature, healthy, functional adults so that we can contribute to a world in a positive and purposeful way. So I want to give you just a couple pieces of how that actually looks. And part of what is so important or powerful or valuable about this kind of journey where you separate yourself from society and you go out kind of on your own is, you know, it gives you the time and space to heal. It gives you enough time away from the chaos of the world or being stuck within the systems of the world to really find your own way. You know, part of what I have found is being in nature is extremely powerful. Spending time alone, being outside has been very powerful. The time to really think and get, you know, stuck some places where there's nothing to do but kind of sit with yourself. So this kind of journey can be an extremely powerful way to sort of heal those broken places. The dangers of doing this kind of thing is if a lot of isolation actually makes it worse for you. If you put yourself in a lot of dangerous situations and you're not emotionally ready to manage that, If you create the kind of journey that has a lot of uncertainty and doubt to it and stress, that makes it very difficult to do the healing process. I didn't really get my feet back under me until I traveled for a couple years, and then I was able to sit on a property for a year. And that's really when I found my center. That's also when I met Matt. So those are kind of the two aspects of, is the journey a good idea for you, temporary or permanent? But just some practical things to think about in terms of, is travel, a journey, a nomadic experience a good way to heal whatever's going on inside of you? So I just wanted to share that with you. I want to give you one more tiny example. When I was back in California and I lived in the mountains, every morning I walked the dog around the lake, or not every morning, but I would walk the dog around the lake. And oftentimes I would see a man. I never talked to him, but I was still in my house. I hadn't become homeless yet. But every time I saw him, he looked very, he was very contained within himself. He didn't smile or he didn't say hello. But he always was put together in a way that I could see was meticulous and with care. His hair was brushed and pulled back in a ponytail. His beard was trimmed. His clothes were clean and ironed and pressed. And he carried himself with dignity. And I could also see that his clothes were threadbare, that he was collecting cans, so he probably didn't have any money or he didn't have a home. And I just respected that because he did not allow his circumstances to define him in a way that he created an image or a presentation in the world that says, I am a victim of my circumstances. And that has always stuck with me. And that's really the message that I wanted to share, is that it doesn't matter what our circumstances are. It's easy to judge from the outside looking in what somebody else is experiencing based on their physical circumstances. I can tell you, having worked with people who are homeless and poor to rich and successful, you never know what's actually going on behind closed doors. We can never judge what's going on with another person. What we can do is choose how do we want to respond to them. And like I said, my takeaway from both working with other people and my own personal experiences, because lots of people look at me as a victim of my circumstance, I never want their pity. I never am friends with people who feel sorry for me. I believe the greatest gift we can give somebody, regardless of what their circumstance is grace and dignity. Sometimes that's reaching out a hand. Sometimes it's letting them fall down so that they can get themselves back up. A child will never learn to walk if the parent is constantly propping that child up. The same is true throughout our entire life. We will never learn our true strength if we're not given the chance to build those muscles by facing our own challenges. Sometimes we need a helping hand, and sometimes we need to be left alone. And it's difficult to make that call. But again, I think the bottom line that you can ask for yourself and you can ask with somebody else is, do you want someone to feel sorry for you, or do you want to be treated with dignity and with grace? And to me, that's the greater show of love and compassion. So that is my message for today. Kind of a heavy message, but I thought that was really important to differentiate those two things, because the comments were really good about when I was talking about not wanting to enable the victims. We do have a lot of that in our culture, but we also have a lot of people who are doing the work on their own. They're just not telling you about it. So I just want to say thank you for sharing this time with me and letting me share that message with you. I hope it makes a little bit more sense now. So before we go, we're going to take one more deep breath for the road, as I hope you will rise with the sun in your eyes, love in your heart, feet firmly on the ground, as together we walk on Survival Road, one step at a time. Live free and die wild, my friend. I will see you next time.